Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Danny and Troy Show. And
I thought you guys were extinct.
yeah,
What?
I think we've had a little bit of a break, but I'm here in Adelaide, and Danny's in his usual spot in North Carolina, and
Yeah.
we're
It's fall though. It's fall. So we have color.
great.
But we've been populated with color since 1619, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead, please continue. I'm in the glorious first state, right?
Is it? Oh, yeah.
They yeah,
It's part of
they called it Virginia, but actually
right.
where they landed was in North Carolina.
Yeah,
And there are no virgins in North
right.
Carolina. I saw that personally.
Okay. Well,
Okay, all right. I'm
yeah.
acting wild and crazy. Go ahead.
Well, that's what we were saying. Something. Yeah. I forget your words, but earth-shattering,
Earth shaking.
earth-shaking uh, announcements, and I mean, yeah, coming back to creative expression and what we're talking about is auto fiction and the mixture between fiction and fact, and also using the power of words. And I was thinking about this as we've been, yeah, putting these episodes down is everybody has this amazing power to speak and not only speak but to write things down and to express themselves. And yeah, I think autofiction is a way of letting things flow uh, with what's happening right now in whatever is happening in your life, because
Yep,
that's going to be mixed up with what's the
yep,
creative stream that actually just wants to be expressed, and
yep.
getting it down or just letting it come is important, but also then
You're so right.
sharing the next level. I mean, and this is, of course, on the data science side of things, sending that information to let others hear it. And sometimes, the wrong people, or I shouldn't say the wrong people, but it just doesn't,
Say it.
um,
Say it anyway.
yeah, those that, um, should hear it, I guess, don't hear it, or those that hear it aren't ready to hear it. And yeah, that happens a lot. But in some cases, people have things to say and they write it down, they fall, or they get delivered to the right person or people at the right time. And it has amazing impacts for action
Yep,
and change.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm just writing down now something that came into my mind, and it's
Yeah,
read my thoughts,
nice.
right? And that's what you get when you write some of this stuff down.
Mm,
And you can be proud of yourself. As you
just
don't have to write War and Peace the first time you
sure.
sit down, at the table. You better have a box of pens if you're going to try doing that, right? Not just one. And keep the flow going, and don't stop. Whatever,
Exactly.
don't stop.
Exactly.
Don't judge yourself, because we have little diseases and sicknesses within us psychologically, which I'd like to talk about in a minute. I wrote a very interesting piece.
Mm,
And, we really, and other people, it's like we're infested with parasites. And I don't mean necessarily the organic kind, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's like people are parasites,
sure.
bloodsuckers, energy vampires, whatever you want to call them, right?
Sure. Sure.
And of course, of, of course, I'm not woke. I don't want to be woke. I want to be aware,
Hmm.
even though I have a degree in clinical psychology and, lots of experience, not so much experience talking, but lots of experience that I carry from field to field in analysis.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
I think I disrupted your train of thought as usual, but anyway, please continue
No, it's
if
exactly
you
that.
remember where you were.
Yeah. Just letting things. There's no right and wrong. I think that's the main point that you're also emphasizing here. And
Unless you ask your mother.
well, sure, many people will like to, yeah, tell you that you're on the wrong path,
You know
and
this one, don't you?
sure, but for yourself, yeah, letting in this context of things flow and being creative, being able to have a channel of creative expression is what we now, has been a running theme of the show, and enjoy partaking in that experience. I do myself, and hope others are getting that as well, which is what I was leading to. So I want this message. We're putting it out onto YouTube. Hopefully, it's going to cross the paths of the people that need to, hear it or to gain something from it. And that's all we're about. We're doing it anyway. Two guys having a great time chatting,
Two guys. Wow. Two
talking
guys. That's
about
what we are.
yeah,
Two guys.
just
Just
important
two
aspects
guys
of life. Just two guys
doing their thing.
doing it.
Yeah, that's right. We are, to a large extent, your advocates. That's what we are. We're advocates, right?
Sure.
We want it's not so much, and I mean, Troy said his peace of mind. Now I'll say my peace of mind is that we're not doing this for you. We're doing this for us,
Yep.
right? That's our
Yep.
motivation. And if you benefit from it, so much the better, right?
Exactly.
And then we snowball, right? Then that energy that is behind us that makes life enjoyable, becomes, I don't want to use the word viral, becomes more common among people.
Exactly.
I was talking with my sister yesterday, and okay, all right, it doesn't have to be her. It can be anybody, but it was her. And it was like, I was listening. I'm getting better and better at listening. Not that I'm bad. In the beginning, I interrupt you a lot, but that's conversation. It's how it works between Troy and me. And Troy is, ultimately very forgiving. And I had to tell her, I say, you know what? Life is what you make it. And you were talking about the significance of words. If you use nothing but negativity in your life, is it any surprise that your life is going to be filled with, any guesses? Troy, negativity, right?
What?
It's like, why do that to yourself?
Yeah.
And then people, they find reasons to back all this stuff
Sure.
up. And with,
Sure.
it's crazy, it's crippling, it's disastrous. And I'm having a conversation with a friend, as you know, in Russia, and we entered into the conversation of intimacy, because I've been doing a lot of work on understanding it. And I learned that actually intimacy, because it sounds so damn important, right? But I'm thinking it's sort of like a byproduct. A chicken sits in a nest, it lays an egg. You can call that egg intimacy. But, we can go back, we can see, what it, why she's laying eggs, and what happens to the egg after that. And it's like Putin said to somebody, he said, about people who had billionaires, oligarchs in Russia. He said, you're like a chicken sitting on eggs. You don't own the eggs.
Right.
They're going to hatch. They're going to go their own way. So, you're into this whole process of thinking that you are an owner. No, you're a steward. You're a caretaker, you're not an owner, because, you can lease land in Mexico for 99 years, but you cannot own it. And what does that mean anyway? You just twist stuff around, to power and control.
Right.
But I came to a conclusion, I think, on the basis of this conversation I was having about intimacy.
Hmm.
And I came to a conclusion, a partial conclusion, because I think this stuff can go on forever. You know, if you apply it to someone or whatever, it takes on a life of its own. But
Yeah.
at this point in time, what I did was write about intimacy, trying to understand um, where it comes from. Can you invent it? Can you reinforce it? You know, what can you do? I mean, where is it? It's a powerful word, but I need to understand more about it, because even now, when I'm trying to talk about it, you know, I'm stuttering. It's like, and I can't really come out. So I took the time today um, to write something about it, and I'd like to read that to you.
Great. Sounds good.
Con permiso. Okay. Intimacy and shame. Nietzsche said, to vigorous men, intimacy is a matter of shame. It is also something very precious. Me. The tendency to experience shame very powerfully inhibits genuine intimacy, most loving relationships. It is in these relationships that we most fear exposure of our weaknesses and aspects of ourselves about which we feel shame. Managing this vulnerability may be evidenced in a variety of ways. Shame's anger is a defense against closeness. People who feel shame use anger as a smokescreen to avoid being authentic with themselves and their partners. They shame partners in an effort to make the partner back off or even feel responsible for the bad feelings and conflicts in the relationships. Shame also creates a barrier to taking in the positive. Negativity may become a way of life as a result, claiming themselves to be right about everything, also known as a need to be right. Unfortunately, shame is consequently a barrier to feeling lovable and to loving ourselves. It stands in the way of truly trusting and savoring a partner's genuine expressions of love. This inability further contributes to frustration in the relationship and a sense of isolation, both of which may only reinforce shame. Additionally, this difficulty can lead a partner to experience anger, frustration, and even shame themselves about not having his or her love truly accepted. Shame leaves us vulnerable to feeling criticized. Intense shame is associated with self-doubt, self-criticism, and even depressive tendencies. It is then not surprising that it can foster heightened sensitivity to criticism, even when it is presented in the form of supportive and constructive feedback. The ongoing need to defensively protect one's self-worth diminishes the capacity to accept support and to be objective about such feedback. Clients' partners feeling shame speak of their frustration in assertively sharing feelings such as disappointment, anxiety, or fear regarding some action by their partner, only to have a partner become angry with them. And their partner's response is, no matter what I do, I can't do anything right. Shame on the face of it can make one completely unavailable to hear a partner's concern when it is consistently heard as criticism. I think that better than better than understanding intimacy, I think we have to dig around it, right?
Right. Okay.
See where the roots are,
Okay.
right? If we're going to be transplanting the tree,
Mm-hmm.
it's probably better than, just going out there, sticking the shovel near the roots and thinking it's going to be really easy to uproot. Now, I will say that in my previous relationship, the nearest previous relationship, the one I think about or have thought about, is that being the world's greatest analyst, I congratulate myself that I was able to, after 13 years of being with someone, to understand that what was going on was probably, I don't know, how do I could be blunt about it, taken advantage of sexually by someone who came to be her mother's next husband. And this person, was very attractive and super wolf and super intelligent and good looking and energetic. I mean, everything you can imagine. And I fear that it attracted the wolf, lost control of himself and destroyed someone's life. And in the process of this person dealing with intimacy and shame,
Right.
constructed her life in the ways in which I have just written about.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, sure.
Forget trust, forget all this stuff, forget intimacy, because you're protecting yourself your whole life because of the impressions that you got as a young maiden. And of course the most attractive person around for an old codger. And he fucked up his own life and somebody else's life too in the process. And I personally, think that's capital offense.
Okay.
Because, they say that in prison, the sex offenders of children are killed by the inmates.
Sure. Okay. There's a lot in there. But yeah, like you're saying, it's digging around a tree. There's a lot, you don't know how many roots you're going to find, which way they're going to go, how deep you have to go. So yeah, it's an interesting topic and definitely, yeah, it has that depth and explore exploratory approach. Just yeah, could get you on a topic that is really, I guess, intriguing and well, to use the word again, intimate. To kind of getting intimate with the word shame. If
I don't think
yeah,
intimacy is sitting there alone.
sure. Well, that's where I was thinking. What was coming out from me was originally, as you were talking about the title, if I'm not mistaken, intimacy and shame. Is that what it was? And yeah, as we went into what was happening, we were seeing that in order for intimacy, which, like we were saying, is something of a positive and enjoyment and fresh and fun and energetic, to get into that intimacy aspect, shame kind of stands in the way. If there's a bit of shame
Oh
there,
yeah.
you're going to not have that same experience. In some cases, it's a search for intimacy, but the kind of the wall, the brick wall, or yeah, aspects of these shame prohibitors that come and stop each other. And sometimes I know for personal experience, it kind of becomes some sort of a habit, or yeah that that the in conversation when you're working with people that you've been hanging around with a long time, and talking specifically about my ex-wife, um, we get into these battles of shaming each other, and and
Ooh,
you know, yeah, it's
just
kind
just what I was writing about.
sure, and it's kind of, I don't know, rather than the intimacy, it becomes something that is connected, we're connecting with, but it's really kind of led to a toxic relationship where it wasn't doing each other of us any good. So yeah, um, moving out of that, finding the space of intimacy without shame, and I believe as a person and an individual, I've grown to the point where I don't care enough to be feeling shame, because like we were saying in the opening, anybody can take this any way they like. We're not doing it to put ourselves as leaders, or experts on anything. It's just us doing what we feel like, and if you like it, that's fine. If you hate it, that's also fine. Just, you can let us know. But, you know, we're at a level of maturity, I guess, that we're not going to feel shameful for expressing our thoughts and understandings, and whatever, or however obscure and, um, you know, mis with the ability of being misunderstood. It doesn't matter to us, because yeah, we're in this just to um like we said, two guys expressing ourselves, what is on our mind, and bringing in this aspect of freedom which comes from creative expression. And shame is a big kind of wall, I guess I've been using that word, so a brick wall, just to uh and sometimes can get built on all four sides, and people live in that small little trap, scared, or uh, almost having an inability to move out. So with creative expression, break down those
Mm.
walls, and venture out there. And this is the perfect example of what you know um, you, it's doing for us. We're out there saying, talking about some deep and interesting topics, and that is driven, or we are on the uh, the powerhouse of creative expression, which enables us the ability to do that, to say what we want, or say what we feel, or and let things flow.
Can I add something to that? I always love it listening. I speak, you speak, and I listen to you, and I think of more stuff.
Sure.
And it's kind of interesting because while you were talking, um, I thought that instead of a thing, right? Intimacy. It's so easy to think of it as a thing. What was it we learned in English class early? Person, place, or thing. That's a noun, right?
Right. Right.
I
Hmm.
don't think, let me write that down. That I learned as a child that a noun can also be a form of energy.
Okay.
that animates a person, a place, or a thing, but as that energy itself.
Right.
And that led me to think that intimacy, hang with me on this, it's very simple, is a response.
Mm. All right.
And that it's a result.
Okay.
And it's sort of like, my view of art is anything created by people. Well, if we look at, we're on in the emotional realm now, and we're talking about intimacy, um, like happiness, is indirectly achieved. It's not like I want to be happy, so I'm going to do this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go buy myself an ice cream, whatever it is. Um, I think that's kind of like the pedestrian approach to what is happiness. And maybe intimacy is also something that it's not like a target that you can shell with artillery, right? It's not anything in that sort of achieving an objective or targeting something
Mm-hmm.
and going for it, and you as a projectile or something that you project hits the mark.
Mm-hmm.
I think that in a lot of ways it's kind of a behavioral response.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's behavioral, like happiness, and I'm only speaking from my point of view, um, is a result. And I'm going to stick it out there a little bit more and say that money is in that category,
Okay.
right? Because it's you can't make money unless, of course, you have a printing press or something, like that. But that doesn't solve the points about this discussion. Is it something that comes as a result of what a hard work or whatever, or
Right.
that happiness for me is the fullest utilization of my talents and abilities, right?
Sure.
And that's what it is for me, and I can manage that. I can deal with that.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes down to going with the community of
Mm-hmm.
words, in that realm, I feel like I disturbed a nest of vipers, and they're all twining around my legs, and I'm standing in the middle of it, because it's sort of like protected, man. This is not something you want to go to because it's like holy. It's like radioactive, or you're going to piss the gods off or something like that, which
Sure.
it manifests itself in many different forms. But here I am, like Ulysses, right? Searching for the holy grail. Okay, golden fleece. I think it's always the same thing or
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So here is Lancelot looking for what was he out looking for the Holy Grail or something, and along the way, the story is the objective, not
Sure.
whether he finds it or not.
Yeah.
And so the same, I venture to say, is true of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, okay, I'm going to go to Chicago, right? And I take the word Chicago, take it out of the picture, and put in, intimacy. How am
Mm-hmm.
I going to achieve that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can't take a plane to intimacy. I can't drive to intimacy, right? It's
Yeah.
it's like is it fair to say it's a mental state, Troy? Is it a mental, physical, psychological state? What is it?
Well, I think you were, I mean, for me, when you said intimacy is energy or energizing, that really resonated with me. And the
Hmm.
way you were structuring what you were talking about in terms of using a noun. So my experience and what was coming up for me on that is when I was told I'm a data scientist. So the noun being
Hmm.
data scientist, and it gave me energy. I felt like now I can go out there. I know what to do and how to present myself. I'm not just some guy with IT skills, science driven, and interested in data and analytics, but I'm a data scientist, and I kind of um, got a lot of energy from that. Now, connecting it to intimacy, I think, well, and this is a topic also going back to shame. People are held back by calling themselves a data scientist because they feel they'll be shamed. They go, I don't have a PhD, or I'm not very um, experienced on
Qualified.
artificial intelligence or this, so they're held
Mm.
back by, even though you have all the raw skills about wanting to work with technology and helping others, and building new ways of seeing information and presenting that information. So and like we've discussed in other past, data science has been around, I believe, for a long time. It's just that now, because of the amount of data and how much technology changes, there's a need for a specific person to take that on. But yeah, people are taking that on one level and saying, "Oh, I don't have all this, so I can't really call myself a data scientist." But because of I come into that space, when I did, I don't have any shame. I feel that energy, and to push it back um, to intimacy, that allows me to have, and this is probably in a business context, an intimate relationship with people that have the problems or challenges, or they're looking for something as a solution, and they come, or so for some reason we cross paths, and I can, without any shame, come to them, say, I'm a data scientist, do you need any assistance? And they'll be like, yeah, well, what about this and that? We have this kind of intimate conversation about really what's going on, not being held back by any aspects of shame or self-doubt, and things just flow. Things get moving, and things are easy, and it's enjoyable. So, yeah, on one aspect, I see intimacy and shame requiring a second person, or, in this context, if there's no one there to feel intimate with, or be shameful uh, um, uh, in regards to somebody else, then yeah, it's on one aspect uh, plus one aspect. Can't, but then I'm thinking of going back in saying, okay, what happened with me was really kind of individual. I had to get intimate with myself in terms of who I am, and what am I doing here, and am I a data scientist? Am I not a data scientist? I had to, adopt or remove all aspects of shame for myself at the individual level. So taking these words, which typically you'd need more than one person to have the context of intimate or shame, but putting them onto an individual and saying, get intimate with yourself and remove all shame for yourself. And wrapping it up with data science and the data scientist now, having a name that allowed me to do that was a really big step for me.
Let me ask you a question. If I make a proposition and speak a couple of words about it, I'd like for you to respond.
Sure.
And that is, here they are, 3 words again. It's the limit. My limit is intimacy is knowledge.
Okay.
Maybe even bordering on wisdom. And because you used words, whether you use them exactly or not, what I wrote down was in depth.
Sure.
Right? That it's not something shallow and intuitive, maybe, I don't know. But it's something you got to work for.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it has to have a history behind it, or some kind of deep association, or well, of course, I believe it's intimacy is a state of being, right?
Sure.
And when we get into that sort of thing, I want to buy a ticket, right? How do
Yeah.
I get there?
Mhm.
Well, we don't sell tickets to intimacy.
Mhm.
Disneyland, yeah, but not intimacy.
Mhm.
And I think a lot of people are conned into believing, maybe through pleasure,
Right.
that they are being intimate, right?
Right.
That's sort of like, okay, we had sex, now we're intimate. It's like,
Right.
if you look at that moment, right, and you're okay, so you're intimate with someone, another version of the same word.
Mhm.
You have your sex organ in theirs, and it's like you're bumping uglies, or however people describe it now,
Uh-huh.
but it's fleeting. Right?
Sure.
It's like Japanese food, I mean Chinese food. Sex is like Chinese food, you know. And I think, yes, these are elements that surround it, um, that maybe even we use in order to um, cajole or fool ourselves into believing that, for our own sake, that great, sex is intimacy, so I get to have a lot of sex. But uh, and this has been a problem for me, is that when that method of, I don't even want to call it intimacy, but that method of physical pleasure becomes clinical,
Mhm.
when it becomes sterile, it becomes an act of reward. It's like,
Sure.
thanks for the coat, now I'm going to bring you pleasure, and I'll defend that if I'm ever asked, as to I made a contribution to this relationship or not. Is, yeah, like I gave him oral sex every time he wanted it. It's like, it wasn't intimate.
No.
It was a smokescreen,
Sure.
right? Because now, on the cusp of having satisfied you physically, I'm going to give you a chance to buy me, 10 or 12 little panties. Oh, how intimate. They even have, I forget, Victoria's something, whatever, these little places you can go, or porn for that matter, right? Where they think that, oral sex is the highest form of intimacy. It's like, I disagree. It's not, because I'm talking about something bridging on the metaphysical, on something that produces a lasting effect, something deep within the heart,
Yeah. I think
right? Or you know what I mean?
well, the doorway
Help me
I
out
think
here. I'm
is
drowning.
really about energy. Like I feel connecting. If it's not energizing, if it's not feeling good, and or perhaps you have um some levels of feeling that it's not enjoyable, then it's not the true aspects of intimacy. Of course, you get all this mainstream, thought or drive about, what you're talking about now between intimate and sex, but I think the intimate broader topic is about how you present yourself to others, ultimately. So
Say that again, please. Say that again.
being intimate is uh is a way of how you present yourself to others or received by others. So it doesn't have to stop in the bedroom, it doesn't have to stop with a male and female or the intimate aspect, using energy as the kind of underlying um, insight, or how you know if you're being intimate. Okay, is this really energizing or is it draining? If it's draining,
Hmm.
it's probably not intimate. It's some level of shame, or there's walls around you. But yeah, if you are feeling energized, then you, and using the word in a more broader context, being intimate. And I use that myself, like what I was saying with business clients. You can have a really intimate relationship about what's going on, what needs to happen. And when it's all energizing for everybody, then things flow. So that's why it's important to get to that intimate state of conversation and communication. And back to what we were opening up about, the power of words. You can allow people to gain an get insights about you and whether they can connect with you, uh, just by using words in the way that you've expressed yourself, and whether or not that is heard by the right person or not. Um, yeah, it determines whether or not there's going to be an intimate relationship forming.
It, it's like this level that you're speaking about.
Yeah,
Um, may have a special quality about it that when you are intimate, it doesn't even register.
sure.
You don't say suddenly, "Oh, I feel intimate."
No,
I think it's just, which puts it in the the energy
that's right.
sphere.
Yeah,
Um, and yet at the same time, maybe this movement of energy, this it has to be special because it's not, you can't go to the candy store and buy a bag full of it. Um,
yeah,
is a kind of vacuum effect that when when a plane is flying in one direction, there's drag behind it. I think they call it, or a draft, right? So
hmm,
when a car goes by, you feel the suction, or a
yep,
boat, right?
yep,
You get all this sort of stuff pulling you in a certain direction,
yep,
and being maybe even not necessarily fully aware of that energy, that flow, that motion, that in being free and creative or whatever, um, pulls people towards you,
hmm,
right?
yeah,
And maybe that's intimacy in its infancy,
cool.
right?
Yeah,
that it's an attraction,
yeah,
that says whatever we call it, I want to go there.
yeah,
I'm being pulled in that direction,
yeah,
and maybe that's a category of intimacy as well, which we could classify or break down. I mean, this could go on forever.
exactly.
Of she's beautiful, right? Or
Right.
this guy knows what he's doing, and you
Yeah,
find, you gravitate in that direction
yeah,
because there's something, you don't need to define it.
no,
It's raw that you're
yeah,
being pulled in that direction, which I think, speaking from experience, can also happen in theater, right?
right.
When people are amazed by the technique, or the command of a of a performer, or anything. I mean, we could go on for a while talking about that. Feel that attraction, and I think that in whatever form way we define it, I think that if we're going to be looking into intimacy, I think we must talk about attraction.
Sure. That's
So
another
we've
deep.
got energy, we've got intimacy as knowledge, so you know something about the person, it's energy. We've got a sense of attraction,
Hmm.
as in what, positive and negative. I think they say what opposites attract. Okay,
Yeah,
so we can use that, positive and negative. And that it's open communication, which kind of fits in with knowledge, and we can like track it. if we're looking for it, right?
Right.
If you wanted to, like in an acting class, for instance, okay, we're going to talk about intimacy, how you are going to be intimate on stage with the audience, or
Sure.
intimate with the character opposite you,
Yeah.
and we can play around with it
Yeah.
by directing people towards this sense of freedom, if
Sure. Sure.
as a start.
Yeah.
Because even when you're on stage, that there comes a moment that if you, let's say your task is to kiss a girl, me to kiss a girl. If you don't maintain your sense of presence and get carried away with the excitement that you could easily feel by letting go, right? The audience is going to get up and walk out. You know that you're kissing this girl and you're feeling something, but you have to restrain yourself, right? Remember, is it in the script? You can, of
Right.
course, you can improvise all you want,
Yeah.
but that's, when you're super sophisticated about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But you've got your tentacles out into the audience. You're not
Right.
looking at them, but you hear them. You sense the the stillness in the audience. All that sort of stuff. That's been a long time since I talked about this, but you get into a manner of control, right?
Sure.
Because if you let yourself go, if you give into it, then you break it. You break your communication. So I think that intimacy too, which can easily be lost. You can lose yourself in that feeling, like sort of getting off two stops before your destination, right? Maintain yourself, control yourself. If you give in, for instance, to the sexual attraction, which is what makes Hollywood what it is, and when they bring politics in it and start condemning people for, you've never been on stage.
Right.
If you don't understand why Hollywood has so many people who have so many marriages, is because, and it's happened to me too. You're on stage with a good-looking girl, and then either you go to the dressing room, or when the play's over, it's over.
Right.
But if you give in to that impulse, Hollywood, it's a meat market, right? And those people are being fed on by vultures. And you probably know yourself that if you, the worst thing, the best thing you can do to somebody is to deny them.
Right.
And then the forces start backing up,
Right.
and then it becomes like, can you manage this or not manage this? Right? Are you going to accept it? Because it's a powerful force, the
Sure.
force of life, right? That you're
Yeah.
dealing with. And okay, so you want to come in somebody, okay, well then there you go. You're no longer in the play, right? And how are you going to treat that when you're on stage again? If you've given into the impulse. Wait
Sure.
until the play is over. The house is dark, and you're rehearsing on another play before you give in to that, because you're not even yourself. You're a different character.
Right.
So it's like your character, that little head you grew on your shoulder next to this one, is talking with the little head that grew on her shoulder, and you don't know anything about that person except within the context of the play.
Sure.
That's not intimacy. That's pretentious intimacy.
Yeah.
So I think the manner of maintaining control, because even let's say you're very involved with somebody, and which has happened to me, and you get seduced, It's been known to happen, to the strongest of people, depending on the circumstances, right? Okay, that can happen. And if you lose that control and give in to that impulse, or circumstances can be numerous around things like that, right?
Okay.
Then you break any other affiliations that you have. You don't need to broadcast it. I remember one time there was a regional audition, and there was a girl there that I had known in Summerstock, and she showed up at the audition, and we had a little tete-a-tete, and then we went back to the room where everybody was sitting around and drinking and smoking and so on, and we walked in the room, and everybody knew.
Okay.
It was like dead space, right? I mean, what is it? You come in and you're laughing or not laughing, or something about that association is different now. And it's like, I lost control. She lost control, but I gave in to the impulse, which,
Right.
you have to do during rehearsal. That's what rehearsals are for,
Okay.
not performance.
Okay.
And I think that that's easily comparable to life situations.
Sure.
That, it's a play, and don't let that become part of your life. And so much for that. Throw that comment out with the garbage. Because it's about numbers, right? It's about numbers.
Well,
oh yeah, when I was in New Orleans, I went to bed with 200 girls. It's like, all right, what does that mean? Lost control. Or knowing when to springboard off of that and to get the hell out of town and go somewhere else because you fulfilled some, objective, etc.
Okay. There's a lot. Yeah. I mean, we're getting deeper and deeper into different, arms and roots of this tree that we're digging around. But I love the connection that you always bring with your acting aspects, and considering life as a play, and we've played with the aspect not to use that
business
word
play.
Exactly, the business play, bringing these aspects of creative expression into aspects of business, and ensuring that it's not something that's overlooked or forgotten about for a long time. And can pick a topic: intimacy, shame, let things flow, let things, communicate out from within you, and have a method of recording it and getting it out there. It's just, something to do. And it can, in some ways, I feel we're having an intimate discussion.
We're sharing intimate details.
Exactly. While we're discussing the word intimacy, or the impact of intimacy, covering aspects of energy and communication and acknowledgement, awareness, control, all these things are coming out. So
when I was teaching at Tulane, I had a class, and lots of business people took the class because they had heard that it was a CRIP course, right? You don't have to do anything. You show up, you get an A. This guy's easy.
Right.
And I was teaching a drama 101 for business people.
Right.
And the guy, I still see him. Jewish guy, dark hair, very tall, thin, was in my class, and he said, why the hell do you think that, drama can be good for business? All those words that we just talked about.
Right. Right.
And he ended up, I finally convinced him, not only do you need to know the script, right? You have to be present. You have to be clear in your communication,
exactly.
Blah, 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 forever. And this was the guy who, when he left, left Tulane, he's the guy responsible for Coca-Cola Classic.
Right. Yeah.
So it's sort of like, okay, you pulled, you put on a play there, man.
Yeah.
You told people they weren't going to make Coca-Cola anymore, and everybody like panicked.
Right.
And then they said, "Oh yeah, we got Coke Classic now," and Coke Zero and all that other nonsense, right? Well, there you go. That was one of my students,
Yeah.
and that's how he was using that uh, in getting intimate with the advertising and marketing world on what is it? I forget which street that's Madison Avenue
Wow.
that
Yeah.
it's associated with,
Yeah. Oh, it truly
So,
is. Yeah. Powerful stuff. And
oh yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. And as often as it is used by everyone,
hmm
it's you've got intimacy and you've got temptation and you've got seduction.
Right. So yeah, I see that connection. I mean, in terms of being on the stage or acting or, you know, there's the intimacy that you can have with, just naturally occurring and things that just falls into place. Then when you're on the stage, you're actually acting to be intimate, but having that practice gives more awareness or control, as you were saying, to when you're actually not on stage. But, these people that have gone through being on stage and controlling it can have this, I guess, sinister approach of seduction and for their own benefit and or interest in feeling powerful, fall into that aspect of, I guess, abusing that power. So, although it is very powerful, and there are ways it will naturally occur in your own life, there will be ways that you can, and this is what I think we're talking about as well as we're writing things down. This is what makes it. This is what giving people an idea or a platform and how to be on stage with these aspects, metaphorically, so that you can experience it and find a way of controlling it, not for,
Hmm.
bad ways or, to control, to feel this aspect of power over somebody else, but to empower yourself in order to, yeah, gain more intimate energy when you go about whatever it is you want to do.
And Troy, there is no way we can set a standard and ask people to
Sure.
maintain the purity of it,
That's
right, or
right.
whatever,
That's right.
because as many people as there are permutations, right?
Sure. That's right.
And you can't tell somebody to do it a different. This is not a church,
Exactly.
we're not consecrating anything. We're
Sure.
exploring some stuff
Yep.
and
Yep.
saying all based on a word, right?
That's right.
What is it? What is intimacy? I think it's a response, right? It's a result. It's an achievement. It's a um, I don't know, state of being.
Sure.
Then it has very many different parts, and not there are not a lot of Leonardo da Vinci's or Elon Musk's out there, so you may not become famous or whatever your motivation is, because I think our success depends on how we feel about ourselves.
Sure.
Were you successful? And then, of course, like intimacy, success is not a destination, it's a journey.
Right.
You don't ever get there. My mother used to say, "You made it." And I said, the thing about making it is that you have to continue
That's right.
making
That's
it.
right.
It's
That's right.
not, okay, I made it. Now, what do I do now? It's like, no, you got to
Yep.
continue.
That's right.
Things look different from here, right?
Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
yeah, we
Maybe
like,
that's a good spot to wrap it up.
yeah, yeah, we
We're
like playing with dynamite and nitroglycerin. Okay,
right.
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So we'll say good night to the audience and spend a
Yeah.
few minutes chatting. Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks
All
everybody for
right.
listening. See you
Bye,
next
y'all.
time.